Hello, everyone. Welcome to the early tea time live stream. I am Hunter Vanness. We are presented by Fantasy Points as always. Thanks for joining us tonight. I hope you all had a great first week of the PGA Tour season. What an epic way to finish off the first event of the year. I got to be honest, I was watching NFL football yesterday, pulled up the last hole to watch, Homa and Danny Willett kind of battle it out there, and I legit I turned it off, changed the channel when Homa skipped it over the green there, and was hitting for birdie off the green, and Willett was within 5 feet there, and I didn't see the finale there, so I had to watch it through a highlight or on Twitter later. But obviously, I saw everyone tweeting about it and pulled it up as soon as I could, but I was a little bit late there. What an insane way again to finish off the first event of the PGA Tour season. Today, we're going to talk about the President's Cup, though. This will be the 14th President's Cup in the history of the event. It was supposed to be in 2021, but it was pushed back due to the pandemic, of course. Last year, they had the Ryder Cup that was at Whistling Straits. This year, we will tee it off, or the two teams will square off at Quail Hollow Golf Course in Charlotte, North Carolina, and this will mark the first time that the club has hosted a President's Cup. Recently, hosted the PGA Championship in 2017 and the Wells Fargo Championship as well each year, except for last year due to, I think it was because of prepping for this. So the last time that we saw it on tour was in 2021 when Rory McIlroy won for the third time at Quail Hollow. The U.S. has won 11 out of 13 total President Cups, which is pretty impressive, including the last 8 as well. The international team won in 1998, and there was a tie in 2003. So otherwise, the U.S. is 11-1-1, which is pretty dominant, of course, and I would expect to see the same this year. Both are looking at the odds. I think they were minus 350 about a month ago, but now it's jumped all the way up to minus 700, minus 750, depending on where you're looking. And I could be off on that number now, too. I'm not really touching that number, but maybe we'll talk about some bets that we can look at this week because there is definitely some money that you still can make. I would not advise betting a minus 750 favorite here, but they do seem like basically a lock to win here. So just talking about the event in general, and then we'll break down the course here in a little bit. There is quite a bit of stuff to go through because this isn't a typical PGA Tour event. Both teams will consist of 12 total players. The U.S. team is led by Davis Love as the captain, and the international team is captained by Trevor Immelman. Neither of those two players will play, of course, but they are the team captains. The U.S. selects the top 6 players in a point standings that dates all the way back to 2019. I don't know why it goes all the way back that far, but I guess that's the last time we played, right? So those top 6 are Scheffler, Cantlay, Xander, Sam Burns, Justin Thomas, and Tony Finau in that point standings. And I think that goes for FedEx points all the way back from 2019. Then there are 6 captain picks. They are Spieth, Morikawa, Max Homa, Cam Young, Billy Horschel, and Kevin Kisner just slides in there. He actually finished 15th in the points list, but he got the captain pick there. And these can be anybody, but the first 5 that I mentioned were the next in the standings there, and Kevin Kisner jumped over Tom Hoagie and one other guy. I think it was JT Poston, actually. So Kevin Kisner gets the nod. He does, of course, have great match play history, but there is, of course, some debate on whether his driving or his lack of distance thereof, will be a detriment. But I don't think it really will matter this week with the U.S. so favored. I don't know if it'll come down to Kevin Kisner's single match on Sunday, but you never know, of course. The international team also has a point standing. This one actually dates back to last year, though, and this gives selections to the top 8 picks. It's top 6, but I don't know. I read a couple different things, but of course, we don't have Cam Smith or Joaquin Niemann in that list. Smith was number 1. I think Niemann was number 4 or 5. But the top 8, though, are Hideki, Sungjae Im, Tom Kim, Corey Connors, Adam Scott, Mito Pereira, KH Lee, and Sebastian Munoz. And then the 4 other players on the team will be Taylor Pendrith, Seabez, Cam Davis, and Si Woo Kim. They get the nod for the captain pick from Trevor Immelman. The rules are a little bit different, of course. Again, this isn't a typical PGA Tour event. There are 24 total players, 12 on each team. But again, it's a little bit different. There's no cut, of course. There's no, it's not your typical birdie scoring, anything like that. We'll talk about DraftKings rules here in a little bit, but there's a total of 30 matches throughout the President's Cup. There's 18 total team matches that are played throughout Sunday through Saturday, and 12 singles matches that are played on Sunday. So everybody will be teeing off on Sunday. The team matches are played either as foursomes or four balls. Thursday will begin with 5 foursome matches, which is essentially an alternate shot. So golfer A will tee off, golfer B will hit the approach shot, golfer A will hopefully be making a birdie putt, otherwise be chipping in on the green, and golfer B will be hitting that fourth shot. I think they'll alternate every tee box, of course, but again, that is how the foursome will be played. Again, that's on Thursday to start off with. Friday will be played as four ball, where each player will play their own ball, and the best score between the two is taken as the score. So, for example, I would assume Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele will be matched up together this week. Let's say Cantlay scores a par and Xander scores a birdie. They'll take a birdie for the hole and move on to the next one. So it's best score between the two players, but there's 4 total balls. Really, both players will be playing their own ball. Again, you just take the best score there. Saturday is split into 2 sessions, though, this time with only 4 matches. And on Friday, there's also 5 total matches. We'll talk about what that means here in a little bit. Again, on Saturday, though, this time there's only 4 matches, but there's 2 sessions. So 4 matches in each one. There will be 8 total matches, team matches throughout the day. On Saturday morning, I think we'll go back to the foursome match, which again is alternate shot. And on Friday, we'll be going to the Saturday afternoon and Friday, very similar to Friday. We'll be playing the 4 ball, where again, each player will play their own ball and the best score will be taken. So, lot to handle there, I guess, lot to give you as information. But, with only 4 matches in each session instead of 5 on Saturday, again, it's a little bit different, but I would assume everyone would be playing on Saturday. I wouldn't, with each session, I would assume the 8 players that are off in the morning would be, playing in the afternoon, but you never really know, especially if it's competitive. So to kind of put this in total, Thursday, there will be 20 total golfers playing, right? Because there's 5 total matches, and each match will have 2 teams. Each team will have 2 players, so that should give us 20 total golfers. That means 2 players on each team will not be playing on Thursday. Now, the same thing will happen on Friday. There's 20 total golfers, again, 10 from each team. So 2 players from each team will not be teeing it up on Friday. So automatically there, and we don't know this list quite yet. We'll see it on Wednesday. But automatically we know when we see that list, at least for the Thursday tee times, that we probably will not want to play those 4 golfers that are left out of the 20 because they're not going to have the ability to play all 5 rounds, which is what you want, right? You want your guys to play the most rounds possible so that they can score the most points possible, right? So we'll see that on Wednesday. I would not make any lineups right now, and again, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But Thursday, again, 4 total golfers, 2 on each team, will not be teeing it up on Thursday, and that's something that we'll be able to know, before lineups lock. Now, we won't know. I believe we won't know who's playing on Friday and who's matched up with each other, as well as Saturday, of course. Everyone will be playing on Sunday, so we don't have to worry about that. But, you should be getting at least 3 to 4 rounds from your guys, but we want to definitely target golfers that will be playing in all 5 rounds. The 2 on Saturday, and then, on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, or on Sunday as well. The single rounds there, or sessions, right? So how do they do DraftKings scoring? It's a little bit different. They use the captain scoring. So, if you're familiar with NFL Showdown, of course, a lot of you fantasy points people are, and just people that play NBA Showdown as well. It'll be very similar to captain scoring, where you'll draft a player at 1.5 times the salary, and then you'll also get 1.5 times the fantasy point value for every single point that they get, whether it's negative or positive. With the captain scoring, you can, again, roster players that are really cheap and fit in some of the more expensive guys. You can also target the guys up top that are going to score a lot of points probably, but be limited on your salary. So it's very similar, of course, to the strategy that goes into NFL, at least from the captain scoring standpoint. Now, Again, there's no birdie or bogey scoring. It's going to go off of how the matches actually played out. If you win a hole, and again, it doesn't matter if you score a par. If you're, the team that you're playing, if they score a bogey, you're going to win that hole. So it's very different than, again, the birdie versus bogey scoring. Again, if you win a hole, you get 3 points. If you lose a hole, you lose 0.75. You can look at all the scoring on DraftKings. I'll try and have it in my article that'll come out a little bit later. Um, the big scoring comes from a blowout in this event. If you and your partner, of course, play a match, or it could be in the singles, and you win, let's say, I don't want to do the math right now, but let's say you win with 4 holes left. You will get 1.6 points for all 4 of those holes, and you'll really be racking up the points. There also is a streak bonus of 3 consecutive holes won. So instead of the 3 birdie streak, we'll have 3 consecutive holes won, which is 5 points. There's 1 per round for that. And then there's also a no holes lost bonus, which is 7.5 points, which would also, go with the, holes not played too. If you win that many holes, and of course not lose any either. So lots of ways to rack up the points, especially in a blowout, and that typically is how these match play events go, or how they play out, especially in Austin, right, for the match play event. But scoring is a little bit different this week. Again, no birdie or bogey scoring. So what do we want to do here, right? We want to target guys who could potentially play in all 5 matches. So, for the international team, I would assume, Sung Jae would probably be one of those guys. He has won President's Cup appearance before, and he played all 5 matches in that one before. So I don't see any reason why he wouldn't, especially since they are lacking firepower like Cam Smith and Neiman, right? Adam Scott has a lot of history here. I don't see why he wouldn't be playing all 5 events, unless it's just a blowout. But if it's anything close to competitive, of course, some of the top players here would be playing. Hideki, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. He's played in 4 or 5 different President's Cups, and he hasn't played all 5 matches before, all 5 rounds before. I think just a couple of times. So I don't really know. I'm a little bit nervous about his neck too right now. So Tom Kim, I think otherwise it just comes down to who's really hot for the international team. Tom Kim, Corey Connors, Taylor Pendrith, maybe. I could see Cam Davis or Mito Pereira getting hot, and they just roll with them. But although, outside of Sung Jae, I don't really have a lot of faith, maybe Adam Scott, that, any of those guys will be playing all 5 rounds, at least as of right now. We'll see, again, who gets left out on Thursday. For the American team or the U.S. team, Cantlay, Schauffele, I would obviously expect those 2 to play together, but also, at least every 4 rounds, if not all 5. JT and Spieth as well, Scheffler. Why wouldn't you play those guys? I do think Homa might be getting paired with Scheffler. I think that'd be a fun pairing, especially since Homa has won here before, at the Wells Fargo Championship. So, like I said, though, it's going to be really tough to know as of right now. I think, if you're making lineups right now and you're sticking with them before lock on Thursday, you are likely just, setting yourself up to lose. Obviously, it's good to know, roster construction, but without knowing who is playing on Thursday at least, and you can guess, right? You can have a good understanding of who's probably going to be playing, but, you never really know. So be careful setting lineups right now. Wait until I think Wednesday night is when those tee times or those pairings get put out or published, right? All right, let's talk about Quail Hollow a little bit here. Just some quick points before we get into the hole-by-hole breakdown. The course was designed by George Cobb in the 60s, and Tom Fazio also has a lot of role, I guess, in this course. I think he's actually touched it up a few different times. So I believe it's a par 71. I think I had that right. There's 4 par 3s, 11 par 4s, and 3 par 5s. It's actually a little under 7,600 yards. So it is really lengthy compared to the average PGA Tour course. The greens are Bermuda. The rough length is 1.75 inches, and it's also going to be Bermuda. However, it's not very long, but it is Bermuda rough. But 1.75 inches isn't really a whole lot to sweat about, even though the rough, again, is a little bit thicker. The average green size is over 6,500 yards, which is about PGA Tour average. I think that's slightly above the average. The number of holes with water hazards is 4, and there are 61 sand bunkers on this course. One of the main things that I noticed when looking at the holes is that they restructured a lot of the back nine to fit with match play. Um, you know, they really wanted this match play to have the best finishing experience, and one of the best parts about this course is the three-hole stretch titled the Green Mile, which is found on holes 16 through 18. Again, it's that three-hole stretch. It's called the Green Mile. A lot of matches end before hole 16, 17. Rarely do they ever get to that 18th hole unless it's really close, of course. So, with a great golf course like Quail Hollow, you definitely don't want to be taking away some of the great holes here. So they actually restructured a lot of the back nine. I think it's going to play as 1 through 8 will be normal. And then they'll go to hole 12. They'll play all the way up to hole 18. So the hole 18 is actually going to be hole 15 now. And then they'll finish off with hole 10, 11, and 9 back up to the clubhouse. So again, a little bit different, but they really want to make sure that the Green Mile holes have been, or will be in the rotation at least, right? I think I read on the PGA Tour website that in the 2019 President's Cup, all 30 matches reached the 15th hole, but only 12 got to the actual 18th hole and finished it off. So, again, you don't want to be limiting a lot of these holes, especially that closing hole. It's pretty fun. So, let's go ahead and get into the hole by hole breakdown here. Again, we'll get into the Green Mile on the back nine. And let me get myself set up here. And thanks for joining tonight. If you're on YouTube, I would love to see if you could, like and subscribe, help us out. That would help us out a lot, of course. And I appreciate you being here. Throw any comments in the chat. I would love to, have a little friendly conversation as we go throughout this. All right. So hole 1 is one of the tougher par 4s on the course. It's nearly 500 yards long. Golfers will need a great tee shot on this hole to do well. That's ideally one that's on the right side of the fairway, but you don't want it to be too far, of course, as there are fairway bunkers that come into the left side of the fairway about 330 yards from the tee box. Golfers will have a mid to long iron into a very undulating green here. There's about 3 large bunkers that surround the first green. There will be an arena-like feel into this green too, which they set up for championship play like they did in the 2017 PGA Championship. So there will be stands that all, surround the entirety of the first green. You don't really see it in that picture, but I believe, again, you'll see it on the broadcast on Thursday morning. Again, there'll be that arena-like feel, and I'm sure it'll be really loud Thursday morning. I can't imagine not. I would assume there will be some people that aren't completely sober even early in the morning there. Hole 2, this is also a par 4. This one measures 452 yards long. This hole plays downhill, so golfers will turn around and go back up the hill on the second hole. Again, this is a par 4. It measures 452 yards long. Golfers will want to aim left on this green as the surface slopes to the right side into the hole's lone bunker. The hole has a narrow fairway, and golfers must drive the ball about 200 to 300 yards long to get the right angle on this dogleg, which is also a dogleg left, which is just kind of fits right into that hole 1. So that kind of wraps around it there. Moving on to the third hole. The third hole plays next to the driving range on the course. It also features a very narrow fairway, at least in the landing area for PGA Tour players. It measures about 25 yards in the landing zone, again, for most of the golfers that'll be teeing up this week. There's a deep bunker that guards the right side of this fairway, which is about 320 yards from the tee box. The green is raised and tightly bunkered, causing the hole to see bogeys at about a 24% rate. The fourth hole is a par 3. This one measures 167 yards. The green is protected by bunkers on the front side, so expect to see a lot of shots behind the green, just trying to avoid those, which does cause a very difficult up and down, however, though. There is a small funnel between the bunkers and a runoff on the back side that can kind of make this hole very interesting. However, it is one of the easier par 3s on the course. You'll see birdies at a 13% rate and bogeys at about a 16% rate, but typically a par hole, 70% pars. The fifth hole, this one is a par 4 as well. This one measures 450 yards. It features a slight dogleg right. There are 3 large bunkers that surround the sides of the fairway on this hole in the landing zone, again, for most PGA Tour players. There are some false fronts on the front of the narrow green that make the pin locations kind of tricky, especially when you get next to those front greenside bunkers. The sixth hole is a long par three. It measures just a shade under 250 yards long. It sees bogeys over 25% of the time, making the sixth hole the sixth most difficult hole. Um, Although the distance is pretty eye-catching, right? About 250 yards for a par three. The hole does play about 25 yards downhill, so it provides a difficult test of distance control for players, especially if there's wind, right? There are two bunkers that protect the green, though, one in the front and one in the back. And the green slopes from the back to the front, and it has a lot of undulations as well. But, back to the front's probably good for this downhill hole, right? Hole seven, this is the first par four on the course, and on the front nine, of course, provides one of the best scoring opportunities for golfers in the first half of their round. But of course, this is match play, so it's not like we're really counting birdies versus bogeys, but I would assume we'll see a lot of birdies and maybe even a couple eagles on this hole throughout the event. The first of the three par fives, excuse me, is also the shortest of the three and one of the four holes that has water on it. The green is heavily defended with two bunkers to the front and to the left, and a pond to the right side, as well as a creek that runs along the right side of the hole too. That kind of just gets in your mind. At least it would get in my mind. But however, the hole still sees birdies over 40% of the time. So expect to see some low scores on the seventh hole this week. The eighth hole, I think the fun really begins on that seventh hole. The eighth hole is also pretty easy. The eighth hole is definitely a scoring hole here. It sees 26% birdies and just 12% bogeys. And yeah, like I said, definitely a scoring hole here. This is a short par four with one of the smallest greens on the course. Many golfers will probably leave driver in the bag on this hole, though, even though it is a bit of a shorter hole, and just try to emphasize landing on the short grass instead of potentially landing in one of the three bunkers on this hole. There's two in the fairway, excuse me, and one near the green. The green was rebuilt a few years ago, so it is a little bit easier to putt than it was in the 2017 PGA Championship. But the eighth hole, like I said, um, kind of some fun. You'll definitely see some low scores on the seventh hole, the eighth hole. Even the ninth hole is relatively easy, and we'll move on to that one now. This one's a par four. It does measure 456 yards, but relatively easy. It's 10% birdies and 26%. Actually, never mind. I got this way off. So, like I said, the rerouting has been off here. So, hole nine, got to look up at my notes here again. So, the last hole on the front nine is actually a par five, I believe. Let me make sure I got this right. Yeah, there we go. This one ranks eighth in difficulty. It actually sees bogeys at a 23% rate. Yeah, like I said, the routing is a little bit different on this one. So this is where they first start to reroute the course a little bit, and they'll actually be playing on, what did I say, the 10th? No, the 12th hole now, right? So this is typically formerly the 12th hole. No, I'm sorry. You can stay in the slideshow. I got it right. Sorry. But again, the rerouting is a little bit different here. They'll play on the 12th hole, but again, the ninth hole will also be relatively difficult. It's a par four, I believe. Okay, so the 10th hole now. I got this one right. This is a par three, I believe. And let me make sure I got it correct here. Yeah, long par three. It's the back nine will play much differently than it has in years past, especially for the Wells Fargo Championship. The long par three is guarded by some of the most severe false fronts on the course. Shots not reaching the putting surface can move down the fairway about 20 yards short of the green. This hole is a easy par hole, in my opinion. Players shoot par about 70% of the time here. So I think, again, one of these holes where it's difficult to birdie, but, you just kind of take your par and move on. 11th hole, this is a par four that measures under 350 yards at the dogleg left with two bunkers on the sides of the fairway and of the hole, as you can see in the image there. I think that one kind of gets split up into two, but there's a large water hazard that rides the left side of the hole. You can definitely see that in the picture. The green is slightly elevated, and it makes it difficult to find the green if you land in the fairway bunker. I do think hitting these bunkers can be really detrimental, especially in match play. Not to really target accuracy too much, just because the rough is pretty short, and you can definitely bomb and gouge this course. But if you're hitting bunkers consistently, you're not going to do well in your match, and that's obvious, of course. So, bogeys can certainly happen on this hole if golfers get too greedy with their tee shot. Again, it is a relatively short hole, but as you can see with the fairway bunkers and the water on the left side there, birdie is not a guarantee by any means. Now let's move on to the 12th hole. This is a par 5. This one measures 577 yards long. This hole will present the fourth potential eagle opportunity in 6 holes. So, you have some short par 4s there. You got a couple of par 5s as well. So, 4 eagle opportunities. Is it going to happen, consistently? Definitely not. But there is some potential to see some fireworks on this course as well, even though there are a lot of difficult holes. This hole plays uphill after the tee shot, though. The water is on the left and the right side of the fairway, which, may appear dangerous, but most players will, be fine. Bombers will have an advantage here, and they'll have an advantage on a couple of these holes. This one, because the fairway slopes downhill if you can, hit the correct landing zone with your driver. So, like I said, a couple of these holes will definitely pay advantage to bombers, and in match play specifically, if you can really get a leg up on your opponent, that might be something to target this week. So, gotta admit, bombers was not the route last week. I even wrote about fairway accuracy in my article, but I just kept leaning to the bombers because I was looking at Cameron Champ, Brendan Steele, but everyone was leaving driver in the bag on a lot of those holes and just, hitting fairways consistently. So it looks like, and I'm talking about the Fortinet now and last week, but it looks like that course, right, is for bombers, especially since the rough isn't really too long. But hitting the fairways was really beneficial last week because of all the dog legs and just having the correct angle to the green. Sorry to talk about that one, but let's move on to the 13th hole now. This is a pretty tough hole. This one is a par 4. It measures a little over 500 yards long, and now we are getting to the green mile. Again, these holes used to be holes 16, 17, and 18, but since they want them to now be in match play, they have moved them up, and we're starting on hole 13 now. So the green mile again begins on the 13th hole. It's formerly the 16th. Bombers will have an advantage on this 13th hole, as it's there's 320 yards that separate the lone fairway bunker from the tee box on this hole, and this bunker sits on the right side of the fairway. So if you can clear that, you're definitely going to have an advantage. That's really long, of course, but there are some elevations on this course that make driving a little bit not easier, but you'll see some longer drives on those holes that play downhill. The longest players on either team will definitely have an advantage, again, as that landing area also leans downhill from that point. So, not only do you clear that bunker, but you can also hit a nice little hill and get a really large leg up on the opponent. So I'm interested to see what, the international team does with players like Cam Davis and Taylor Pendrith. Will they play them together? I don't know. Like I said, it's a little bit different than the Euro team last year. Most players, will still have to play to the left side to avoid that bunker. It's going to leave, however, one of the longest approach shots of the day to that green. Again, with this hole being over 500 yards long, it's par 4. You're probably going to have a really lengthy approach shot here. Most, again, players will try to avoid that bunker. If you avoid the bunker on the right side of the fairway and on the right side of the green, as well as the water that starts on the left side and wraps around the backside, as you can see in that picture there, you should be safe. But that's like, I guess that's a lot to say there. It's a tough hole, like I was saying. This green mile can be really difficult, and I think a lot of matches will be decided on this 3-hole stretch. It might not finish the match, but you could see it's never over, I don't think, at least until this 13th hole begins here. Moving on to the second hole of the green mile. This one is a par 3. It plays slightly downhill. It's 190 yards long, and it features water in the front and down the entire left side of the green. The green is relatively large, however, but the water on this hole can definitely turn a match. I mean, if one guy hits the green and the next one finds the water, you might just see him pick it up and move on. You never really know, depending on where that putt's coming from. So the hole typically sees bogeys at a 17% rate and doubles at an 8.6% rate, which is insane. I don't know if Yeah, not sure if I've seen one that high since we've been doing these hole by hole breakdowns. But again, double bogeys coming at 8.6% rate here, and bogeys at a 17% rate. So it's going to be tough. Like I said, definitely the most on the course as far as double bogeys go for the 14th hole. So another hole here that can turn a match. And the 15th hole, typically the closing hole, and obviously one of the more difficult ones on the course. This is the last hole of the green mile. The hole sees bogeys over 30% of the time and double bogeys at a 5% rate. They moved it again so that we can see it again, as many matches won't reach that 18th hole. On the tee shot, players must avoid a bunker on the right side as well as a creek that just kind of comes into the hole a little bit on the entire left side of the fairway. You can see it there a little bit. So this hole can definitely decide many matches as well. And again, all matches in 2019 reached the 15th hole, but only 12 reached the 18th hole. So I'm glad that they moved this because it's going to definitely create some drama, and hopefully it makes more matches reach that 18th hole. I'll be interested to see what that final number gets to this week. Few more holes left. We have the 16th hole here. This is the last par 5 and also the longest par 5. It measures 592 yards long. Golfers must outdrive the bunker that sits about 300 yards past the tee box on this hole. Many players will lay up their second shot, but the match play element of this event may change some strategies here, right? You may see your golfer or your opponent go for the green, right? And if they're on the green in 2, you might have to go for that same strategy. You never really know. It depends on who's playing, right? But I think the match play element will make these par 5s really interesting, of course, since some players will be able to reach them in 2, um, and of course there's risk reward that comes with that too, right? It's not always the safest play. So the green slopes quite a bit on this hole, excuse me, and there is a bunker on the front left side of the green that will definitely impact that second shot. The 17th hole, this is a dogleg left par 4 that has 2 deep bunkers in the landing area and down the left side of the fairway. The second plays uphill to a raised green with 2 bunkers also guarding the left side. The green complex features a false front that golfers must avoid, though, and you'll see quite a few false fronts on, throughout this course, I guess, and a lot of these greens. Something that I've read quite a few times when looking at a lot of these holes. All right, the last hole here. This is a long par 4. This is actually the 9th hole typically on the Wells Fargo Championship, but again, they switch things around here. This is a long par 4 that measures over 500 yards long. So this one's still tough too. I'm glad that they're closing with this hole instead of a different one on the front 9 or like 10 or 11. So the last hole again is a long par 4. It measures over 500 yards long. There's a bunker on the right that is definitely in play on the drive uphill. And the second shot will require a long iron into the green that is defended by 2 front bunkers there that you can see in the picture. So that is the hole by hole breakdown. It was a little confusing when I was writing up my notes because I didn't see that they rerouted the course until comparing it to different years. And I don't know, it was a little confusing for myself. So that is how they're going to play it though this week. Again, let me get that exact rerouting. So it'll be different than how the Wells Fargo Championship is played from year to year. The rerouting again is 1 through 8, 12 to 18, 10 to 11, and then hole 9 will be the finishing hole. Again, a little bit different, but I'm glad they did that for the match play, just when thinking about how it'll all play out on Thursday. Let's talk about DraftKings a little bit here, and I'll pull up my DraftKings lobby screen so we can compare some of the golfers here. And again, don't forget it is captain mode, so you'll see the little captain logo here. You'll have to draft someone at 1.5 times their salary. So what does that tell us right off the bat? Guys like Scheffler, Cantlay, Schauffele are probably going to be low owned as far as the captain goes, just because there's so many guys up top here that people want to play. The ideal route, right, is finding someone cheap and just jamming in some of these safer plays up top, especially since the U.S. is so heavily favored. It makes sense to play a lot of these guys again that are probably going to be scoring a lot of points or winning a lot of matches, right? One thing I needed to bring up before, I should have brought it up. Again, you can draft players that potentially will be playing with each other. And I expect a lot of chalk to go that way as well, especially when looking at the Thursday tee times. Um, and that's a strategy to consider this week. It's something that we're not able to do in the Zurich Championship or the Zurich Classic, right, which is the other team event. You can't draft anyone who's on the same team. Now, these players aren't going to be playing with the same team every single time, but some of them might be, like Cantlay and Xander Schauffele. I think they played with each other every time for the Ryder Cup. I could be wrong on that, but Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth will probably be playing with each other quite a bit. I would assume Sam Burns and Billy Horschel will be, partnered together for a lot of the matches. So maybe, playing a guy like Billy Horschel, who is much cheaper than Sam Burns, who's probably going to be playing with them in nearly every single match besides the solos, is one way to save some salary this week. Because I would assume, again, those two would play quite a bit. I need to write that down. Billy Horschel could be a good play at a lower owned salary or a lower salary this week. So again, you can stack, right? Those of you that play a lot of NFL or NBA Classic mode, you can really think of those stacking and playing guys that will likely be partnered together. Again, Cantlay and Schauffele are the two that first come to mind, but they are both above 15,000. So it's not really going to make a whole lot of sense to play those two together. But like I said, you could just grab one share of them, like a Billy Horschel. You don't have to play Sam Burns as well, but that could be one way to, again, stack points together. So let's just say Billy Horschel and Sam Burns, not only are they paired together, of course, but let's just say they blow out their Thursday morning competition. That gives them a huge advantage for a couple of reasons. One, they'll get the matches not played bonus. So not only will you get that for Sam Burns, but you'll also get it for Billy Horschel. So that's double the points, and you're just kind of locked in there, right? You're also probably going to get some other streaks. Maybe they, won 3 matches or 3 holes in a row, or, they had to get a lot of points from just winning different holes. They also, if they blow out their team on Thursday, they're probably going to be playing a lot more over the weekend, right? Especially if we're trying to win this thing. And why wouldn't they go out again on Friday or on both rounds on Saturday if they have the hot hand? So stacking is going to be really interesting this week, especially because obviously it can go the opposite way too, right? You could play some of these international guys together, and they just might not have it at all for the week. And you won't want to be playing them at all, right? It'd be a terrible stack or a negative stack. So this is something that's interesting this week, something that we don't really have to think about in, PGA events. I guess you can weather stack, right? But this is a little bit different with the team aspect here, team stacking. So again, salaries are way different than compared to normal. We have Scheffler at 5.9. If we scroll all the way down here, you will see Sebastian Munoz at 6,000 flat. I'm not going to go through everybody here. We have lots of great content throughout Fantasy Points all week long, of course, but a couple of guys that I wanted to just talk about, how can we get different this week? Obviously, I could tell you to play the international team, and if they win, you're going to get nearly all those guys at extremely low ownership, and you are just going to run away with this thing because, again, the U.S. is so heavily favored. I expect a lot of the ownership to go towards the U.S. side, right? The problem is a lot of those guys are highly priced, like a Max Homa, for example, 13.8. But again, he's won on this course before. He might be partnered with Scotty Scheffler, so that might be a route to potentially, I don't, I'll probably avoid that at that price, but I don't know. I really need to see these Thursday tee times and who's playing on Thursday and who's also partnered together, because you could also, if Scheffler and Homa are going against like Pendrith and Cam Davis, you're obviously not going to want to play Pendrith and Cam Davis. Ideally, in the perfect world, in this contest, you want to draft 6 golfers that are going to play all 5 matches, and they're going to win all 5 matches, right? So obviously, that's again a perfect world. Very unlikely that happens, but that's what you want to shoot for in your optimal lineup. You want 6 guys that have a good chance of playing all 5 rounds, and there's a good chance that they win all 5 rounds, right? So it's going to be tough. You're really going to want to look for value plays, of course. For example, Jordan Spieth, and this is actually their captain salary on the right side. Scheffler isn't priced at 15.9. I think he's like 10 something. So it's not as high as that. But yeah, like I said, you want to definitely look for, lower priced options, maybe in the captain spot. You don't want to spend all your salary up top there because there will be guys, especially US players, that are winning matches at a lower salary. Um, I don't know. It just kind of depends how you feel on their match play overall. So the cheapest guy for the US is Kevin Kisner at 5,000 flat. He's 7.5K in the captain. Not I'm not going to get to Kisner this week. Big debate on whether he should have made the team or not, right? But um, yeah, not going to be for me, but he does have a lower salary. Some lower owned or lower priced guys that I like. I do like Sung Jae Im, even though if I had to pick one international guy, it probably would be Sung Jae. He was 3-1-1 in the one appearance that he made in the President's Cup in 2019. So pretty solid for him. I don't know if I would captain him because I don't think that he's going to win all five, right? You definitely want your captain to be the guy that you feel the most confident that's going to play all five rounds. Also, the guy that you feel most confident can win all five too. Jordan Spieth wouldn't be a bad option to consider, especially if he's partnered with Justin Thomas. You can kind of get a little bit of that. Again, it's pointless to build lineups right now, but just looking at the salaries at least will help you out on Wednesday night when you're crunching those numbers together and making those final edits. So again, there's no point in me building a lineup because I could be selecting guys that might not be playing on Thursday and they would be missing some points. So just again, some guys that I kind of like, or at least I'm eyeing right now. Jordan Spieth, of course, Sungjae Im, at least for the international side. Tom Kim, I would expect Tom Kim to have some ownership this week. I don't see why you wouldn't play Tom Kim in all five rounds because he's extremely hot right now. But I think a lot of this too will likely be, who's playing well on Thursday and Friday, and that'll probably give them the nod on Saturday. Let me just give you the math one more time because this is really big for me as I'm making my lineups, or at least just considering what I need to be aware of when I'm making my lineups. Again, on Thursday, there's 10 total players from each team playing. There's 5 matches, right? So each match will have one team. Each team will have 2 players. So again, there's 20 total golfers playing on Thursday. So 4 golfers, to me, I'm going to cross out immediately because they're not playing in all 5. We already know that. And if you can get that small, leg up on the competition, trust me, there will be people that play golfers that aren't playing on Thursday. They'll be really low owned, of course, but someone will be doing that and they'll be paying the rake. Friday, same thing, 20 total golfers playing. There's 10 matches, 20 total golfers, so 4 players will also not get the nod there. I would assume the 4 guys that aren't playing on Thursday will play on Friday. So again, I'm just assuming, but there will be 4 new guys that are taking the day off on Friday. Saturday, a little bit different. Again, there's 2 sessions. There's going to be 16 total golfers in each session, 24 total golfers throughout the day. I would assume everyone will be playing on Saturday. I can't imagine, they'll have one guy just not play in both sessions. So I would assume there's 8 off in the AM. So, 16 playing in the AM, 8 golfers not playing. And then they flip, same thing in the PM, right? 16 golfers playing in the PM in the 4 matches there, or 4 rounds, matches. And then 24 playing, or sorry, I'm getting confused with numbers now. 8 off in the PM, 16 playing in the PM. And again, I would assume that they would flip-flop those between the AM and PM. So let me rephrase that again. Guys that aren't playing in the morning, I would assume they'll play in the PM. I, again, can't imagine anyone would take both rounds off unless there's injuries or anything. So what I'm trying to tell you is you want to look for those 8 superstars that are probably going to be playing all, sessions on Saturday. And we can't really guess that right now, but you can, kind of guess, right? Like when they play, a Jordan Spieth, right? Or a Justin Thomas, or probably those guys that finished in the top 6 of that FedEx point standings because they're probably hot right now, like a Tony Finau, for example. I don't know if they'll play all 5 rounds, but you can kind of get an idea of those 8 guys that are likely going to be playing in all 5 rounds. And I don't think it'll, definitely be 8, but to me, there will be 8 guys that are playing in both sessions on Saturday, no matter what. There could be more, again, if someone doesn't play in both sessions in the day, but I would assume, again, there's 8, and that gives us 8 to for sure choose from. We don't know that right now, but looking on Thursday on on who's playing and who's paired together will be beneficial, I think. So, all right, I think that's all I got to say. If you have any questions, let me know, please. Again, it's kind of pointless to make lineups right now because, again, we don't have those Thursday tee times yet. So be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for other fantasy points content throughout the week. We will try to break down this new format as best as we can. Thanks for taking some time in your night or any time in the week, I guess, if you're listening a little bit later or watching for, listen to me here tonight. I really appreciate that a lot. And good luck this week, everybody. I hope the U.S. comes out victorious, of course. Otherwise, that might be, one of the bigger upsets that we've seen in the history of golf. But like I said, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Good luck and have a great rest of your week.